you do the time in prison. You don't let the time do you. Ready? The story release of Roy Bert Scrivner, also known as Ray Barnes Scrivner, also known as Roy Bert Scrivner, for good and valuable consideration, the receipt of which is hereby acknowledged. I hereby consent to the photographing of myself, the recording of my voice, and the use of these photographs and are recorded singularly or in conjunction with other photographs and or recordings for advertising, publicity, commercial, or other business purposes. I understand that the term photograph, as used herein, encompasses both still photographs and motion picture footage. My story, as I recall life today, belongs to my daughter, Janet McGinn, and not associated with my estate.
Story about a hijacking. It had to do something with a witness in the Federal Protection Agency or something. You told me a story once. She was a stripper and...
Oh, the stripper. Oh yeah. We were, going to hijack a truck, and truck drivers all love beautiful women. So I went over to Phoenix, picked out this girl that was more than a knockout. Long black hair, cold green eyes, beautiful body. So I said, "You want to make $500?" She said, "Yeah." And I said, "What do you?" She said, "Well, what have I got to do?" I said, "Just stand there beside of this Lincoln, pull your dress up to your knee whenever that truck comes around." So, and since they always dub you with some kind of nickname, they called me the hijack king of the world. But of course that was erroneous. And during this time, so now they are having my wife at the time pay the taxes on this $40,000 that I had made up. So while I'm in prison, they force her to pay thousands and thousands of dollars, which was all fictitious in the first place.
You said there was a robbery. Tell us about the robbery.
The robbery occurred on a reservation. It was a trading post. And because this robbery occurred on a reservation and the lease was co-signed by an Anglo, which is not a member of the Navajo tribe, comes under the jurisdiction of the state of New Mexico. But since I myself only had a markings of a Cherokee Indian, the state had jurisdiction over the land that was inside the reservation. There was money taken, but because I knew the man, and because I had a mechanic shop at the time, and my Dodge van was at the mechanic shop, and it being used in the robbery, they accused me of conspiracy, along with other charges of kidnapping, false imprisonment, and armed robbery, because they used my van without my consent. My ex-wife now, they put her on the van, and they were looking for our little 3-year-old girl. Where was she? Because, as you know, they were tearing up the kitchen, they're tearing up the van, but where's our little girl? So everybody started screaming, and she had hid herself under the bed with an FBI and his gun drawn as a little 3-year-old girl. So they handcuffed me, as I mentioned, to put me outside, searched the house, found nothing, took me to Arizona because it was on the reservation. After a few days, they extradited me back to Gallup and had me in a holding cell. But in the meantime, the FBI must divide the man and the wife. They must divide the family if they are going to secure a conviction. So while I'm in jail, they go out to visit her. Of course, it always takes more than one to go out and visit a young lady with a small baby. And they convinced her that she must check and give her consent to all the documents they have, because they said if she did not answer all these questions, that they would have to take her to jail. So who's going to take care of the baby? So she's scared to death. And they brought out documents such as the vehicles that I owned, which was a 1976 Subaru, and they showed her the document. Is this your husband's signature? And she said yes. And they said, well, you have a 78 Chevrolet Cheyenne. Is this yours? And she said yes. Is this your Dodge? Yes. Now you know this is the one that was used in the robbery. She said yes, that's our van. She said, and this is you have an 81 Eldorado Cadillac. She said yes, that's our Cadillac. And he said, well, what about this Ferrari? And she says, Ferrari? We don't have a Ferrari. And the FBI agent said no, but your husband's girlfriend has a red Ferrari. And she said, let me see that. Sure enough, my name was on the title to the car. Of course, immediately she jumped up and screamed, and because we had this relationship that we were both in love 100%, neither one could do anything wrong, and all of a sudden there is this wedge in between us, because I have a girlfriend in Phoenix, even though we had joked about it before. So the following day she ran down to the jail and she was crying, why did you do this to me? And I said, do what to you? And I said, did you get a copy of this document with my signature? And she said, no, I did not need it because I would recognize your signature anywhere. Immediately she stormed out. We never spoke to each other after that. The FBI really gave her a hard time. In fact, I guess the FBI gave me a hard time, because after my sentencing, I heard the FBI tell the judge, you've got to get this man off the street. Go to prison and you lose everything that you have as a human being. You shower with other men, you use the commode with other men. Everybody's naked, you don't the guards are always stripping you off naked. They're looking for something, so you have no decency. This is where your freedom is restricted. At least, when you get out, you get to keep your clothes on. And also, too, you have to make decisions yourself. Like, how do I do my laundry when I get back? Inside there, they pick up your laundry for you. You don't have to do anything. They cook your food for you. But you can only go to that cell when you go out there. Can't go to that thing. You can't leave the premises, so your whole world is confined to that one little building or one little rec yard, whatever it is. So that's where you lose your freedom. See, this is difficult. When you first go in, you can't believe you can't see your children, you can't see your wife. So you cry. And if someone sees you cry, he's just a punk. You do the time in prison. You don't have the time, do you? For instance, if a man goes in at 50 and he comes out looking 45, he did the time. But if a man goes in there at 50 and he comes out looking 65, then the time did him. I stayed there for 15 years in the personality of the most dangerous man in America. So after a while, you become that person as you experienced that you become cold and reserved, and you become the convict that you actually read about. But you convicts, they just stand there by yourself. You just go to your cell and read your book, watch TV. But to be a convict, you got to be bad. So you had to become this other person, which was interesting because it was all fake. But you had to live that lie. These people in prison, since we're talking about this, there's people in there that really deserve to be in there. There's just mean people. Now, mean. The robber just goes in there to take money, and a mean one, he'll shoot everybody. He just, the mean ones, they just destroy, and they destroy and they're destructive.
Well, the news article said there was like 5 or 7 people who got out of prison, and some went under the bridge, and there was a crossing of words. Remember, everyone was going to meet somewhere. You told me that story.
Okay. When we escaped, we were going to in this particular town. There's a street called Bridge Street, and then there's also a bridge that. A bridge is a bridge, but we said that we would meet over at the bridge, but we didn't know whether it was a bridge or the bridge street. They left their street off. So two of us went over to the bridge, and the other went over to Bridge Street. So that's how we got separated.
But you had all originally planned to leave together as a group.
Yeah, we were all going to leave together and stick together. Got a miscommunication between Bridge and Bridge Street.
But see, it would have been harder to actually escape as a group because you guys would have looked like a gang. So on one hand, it was...
But you see, I didn't want to be paired off with this guy with a white beard.
And yet you were.
He was the only one that was left, you know. So, well, my friend with the white beard was in this church group, and he met this young lady there that was petite, beyond all man's imagination, especially if you've been in prison for several years. So on escape, we went by her house because apparently he had her address. And we went in the house, and we made sandwiches, took a bath, and waited for them to come home. So when they come home, they come inside while we stuck a knife to the man and told him that we want a gun, we want your money, and we want your car. And the man says, I will give you the gun, car, and the money, and I will not call the police, but you cannot touch my wife. And everything was agreed that we would not touch his wife. So we tied him up, and I tied her up, and the man with the white beard went into the bedroom where she was because we had tied them up in separate bedrooms, and he was untying her. And I said, what are you doing? And he says, I'm going to get some of this because it's too good to let go. And I said, wait, hold. We agreed we would not touch his wife as long as he went along with everything he wanted. He said, well, my word's not any good. And I said, yes, it is. So we had a fight there and knocked him out. Well, knocked him out of her bedroom. So I said, you get the gun and the money and the keys and let's go. I told them that when we got to another destination out of state, that I would call the police back here and have them come over to the house so that they wouldn't get cold. So,
What do you mean by get cold?
you know, if it's wintertime, you know, the furnace might not be working or something. So when I got into wherever I was going, I called them back, and the phone was busy, which means that they had gotten loose. So I kept my word too, because we didn't touch his wife. One of the few things I did right in my life.
Well, you're an honorable man.
That's correct. After we had been captured and returned to New Mexico, the FBI went out and talked to this man and says, I understand that your car was found in Canada because we know that these two people took it. He said, well, I didn't know anything about it. I just knew the car was missing. I turned it in the insurance company and I don't know who got it. And the FBI said, no, don't start that. You know that these people were here, the two men, because we took their fingerprint off of one of the milk cartons in your refrigerator. And he said, no, that's not the way it happened. And they separated them. And they said that we want to know your story. And she said, what story? Somebody stole the car. So then the FBI came to see me and said, well, they always want to call you by your first name. Roy, we understand that you went out here and kidnapped those people and tied them up and took their car. I says, what are you talking about? And he said, well, okay. So they went over to the guy with the white beard and said, well, we understand that you went out here and tied those people up. And before the FBI got there, I talked to the man with the white beard that if you say one word about what happened, I will see to it that you don't breathe the next 3 or 4 days. Because sometimes you have to express your opinion. You will not live to be a snitch. So when the FBI come by him, they said, no, we don't know what you're talking about. So then they said, well, we know you did. He said, no, you don't. But he knew he was going to die if he snitched, because he'd already snitched over in Canada, and I was a little bit unhappy about that. Okay, so it was his turn to die, but he decided not to die. So the FBI came by and says, well, Roy, says, we can't get you for kidnapping, and we can't get you for armed robbery. So are you going to plead guilty to escape? I said, yeah. Plead guilty to escape? I'm not here when Kent comes. Well, we're not satisfied with the fact that we're not going to get you for kidnapping. Under federal law, it takes life. But the FBI, man, they wanted that 99-year life. Whew, they were threatening them and everything. In fact, they even, like I say, threatened to take them to jail and everything. And the man said, no, just take us to jail. But he wouldn't give us up. So that's how I only got 9 years instead of 99. Yeah, 9 years. But the man and woman, because we did not touch his wife, saved our lives. So, in conclusion, there are still good people out there if you keep your word. I had to become what my reputation had told me as the meanest man in the world. So you had to stand aloft, because no one was good enough to talk to you. There was no one mean enough to talk to you. So they all set me aside, kind of like a god. We're looking up to this man here because, hey, yeah, he escaped the FBI. Went up into Canada, tied up all those guards. First, when you first get out, you look around to see if there's any handcuffs waiting for you. Look around to see if you recognize anyone that's going to stab you, and you're scared. Because you're put in this halfway house with all these strange people and you don't know them. So immediately you become offensive because you've lived that life for 15 years and now you're in a group here that supposedly are to help you, but that doesn't mean you're who you are, because they read papers too. But to start life, number one, you have to have the right attitude. For instance, what am I going to do the first day I'm out? Well, you talk to the director of the halfway house and say, I need some ID. I need a witness as to who I am. Now, me, I had been working on some legal work, so I had my birth certificate. So I took my birth certificate with his knowledge and I got an ID. So now I take that ID and I go over and get a permit to ride a bus. The question is, do I have any regrets because of being falsely accused and put in prison? The answer is no, because I got to see the other side, or rather I should say, I got to see the dark side of civilization. So we've got to have policemen, we've got to have a good policeman, honest policeman. So when the police came out and handcuffed me, they were just doing their job. Now, I did not appreciate the fact that they kept me outside in bitter, chilly cold. I think it was in March or something like that, but the temperature must have been 35. And I was just shaking like a leaf, you know. Of course, I was handcuffed and no shirt on. And if it weren't for the police, this would be a chaotic world. Thought I'd bring that out and put that in there because we really got to have police and we've got to have undercover agent. The police have got to know what's going on. So I admire every policeman for being a policeman because he's acting too. When he goes home, he's a nice guy. But when he stops you, if you got a shotgun, and you got these dark windows and things, you can't see him. There's a man got a gun aimed at you. So he's got this different personality too. So he's living another world too. And then when he goes home, he's got his kids. Hey, honey, how you doing? And even though I lost my family, even though I walked to the corridor of death, even though I had all these reputations and things, it was kind of interesting to be someone else. So you had to be acting for 15 years, be on your side of things. So if I were to change anything, in the beginning I would have, but after 15 years, and I can't change anything, then I don't want to change anything. You got the best of two worlds. You had one up to age 50, and then you started this other until age for 15 years, and now you got another life, you know. So I'm really ahead of everybody because I'm starting on my third life.
Okay, how old are you now?
Oh, that's a good question. I was 74 in July. So next July I'll be 75, and then I got to work August, September, October, November, December, January. I got to work 7 months after 75. And the reason why I'm working till I'm 75 is because I lost 15 years in prison. So this would be one of your regrets. The thing most that you can learn is to buy this book and remember that freedom is important and that you don't want to commit any crime so that your freedom can be taken away. That's the only thing this book is going to portray, that freedom. Oh, I like my freedom now. Every morning I wake up thinking, you know, that's behind me. And now I got my family here to look up to. I need to turn that off. It's 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and we also need to get you into a hotel